What a difference almost 2 weeks out of COVID makes. I'm feeling pretty much like my old self. I was out last night for a concert, Verdi's Requiem, which was excellent at the Metropolitan Opera House. It's not sung very often, only to commemorate really big events. So it was interesting to listen to, and it was almost a packed house. That's what happens in New York City. Everyone's into culture when we're not moaning and groaning about the immigrant situation in New York City or the ghost guns that are being manufactured in daycare centers of all places, along with fentanyl, which is also in daycare centers and happened to kill, unfortunately, a young person. However, crime all over is down. What's my idea of policing? My idea of policing would be putting police back on the beat, integrating them with the communities, letting them know the people that they're policing, somehow working with the community leaders, the churches, and trying to head off the violence before it begins. What else would I do? I'd have hotlines that police could field to social workers. And I would be setting up affordable housing in all grade B and grade C commercial spaces, not SROs where you got a bedroom and shared bathrooms and shared kitchens. No, siree. People need to have some kind of dignity. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it with a bathroom en suite. If you want to have a communal kitchen, you can do a communal kitchen. But people should have the option. And we should be doing it not only for the homeless, for those who need affordable housing here in New York City. They say they're going to cut down and shut off government because of the debt. They don't want to pay what the Pentagon is asking. I got a big way to avert government debt. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Take away the fossil fuel subsidies and the big agri subsidies, and we will save trillions. No reason to give $1 trillion to folks who are already making probably $120 billion in profit every year. And they have the goal this week to increase the price of crude to $100 a barrel. We don't even want to be on fossil fuels. It's urgent that we get off of fossil fuels and stop the emissions. Many in our country think that America's doing a great job on climate change. We're not. We went from 13% renewable energy to 23%. We're driving more than ever. We're flying and we're polluting. And we've got a lot of old buildings that have to get rid of the old-fashioned air conditioners with fluorocarbons in them. So, no, we're not doing a great job of curbing emissions. We're still using the old methodologies, and the old methodologies and petrochemical plants, they gotta go. And we've got solutions. They've got microbes that will now eat up plastics. Well, that to me sounds like a win-win. Put a whole bunch of bacteria to work, and what we can't get rid of and recycle, let them take care of the remaining waste. There's another product called the mill. If you can't get rid of your food waste, in a compostable manner, well, you can put it in apartment buildings, and people who don't have compactors can bring their waste there. It compacts it into a powder, and it's easy to be used as fertilizer elsewhere. That's a win-win. What else is a win-win or a potential win-win? The Gen X demographic, the Gen X kids, are probably those in the 40s up to about 57. They were born after 1965. For some reason, they think that they have no voice, and they're a small cohort. There's 65 million people. The boomers and pre-boomers are about 70 million people. Our kids are 65 million. We wanted to replace ourselves. Well, we did, and for some reason, they feel they don't have a voice. With a cohort that large, I wouldn't be standing still when I'm told there is no job for me. There's ageism. There's gender discrimination. There's size discrimination. There's racial discrimination. And it's confirmed. I've been to FT conferences where they say, oh yeah, HR discriminates against age. Well, what are our kids supposed to do? They're saying it's the Gen Zers who are writing the code that are excluding them from work. But the Gen Zers, they're taking their marching orders from the folks at the top, the boomers. So what are these wealthy boomers doing? You're not discriminating, I'm sure, against your children, but you are discriminating against my children and everyone else who's in the middle and lower classes. And that's why customer service doesn't work. That's why there's nobody to complain to. And when you want to appeal for your medical expenses, you got to go to supervisors, and you have to learn what is their process. And you got to get to enough people so that they know what the process is, so that they can tell it to you. And finally, you got to get them all on the telephone at the same time so that each one can talk to the other and actually resolve your problem or your claim. The country needs the Gen Xers to be working. They filled the valid gap of project manager, the interface between the Gen Zers and upper management. Without them, business really doesn't work, and we have no controls on big business. Guess that's why they don't want the Gen Xers in there. There'd be some controls. There'd be some logic to what's happening in a corporation. There might even be accountability. And no siree, the corporations don't want accountability. The UN is trying to put through a law. Well, it's not a law. They'd like everyone to please say that they're going to adhere to a certain conduct so that they could reduce climate change. Really? That's the problem with corporations today. They don't have any word. They can look you in the eye and tell you, oh yeah, I want to reduce climate change. And then when they don't see you, they do nothing about it, and the emissions soar. So it's time for the Gen X demographics, all those kids, that 65 million voices. They start voting, they vote in droves, and they vote for some of their own kids and people to be in power. It's enough to have extremists in government. When you got extremists in government, you're not making any headway at all. What do you got? Nothing. Gridlock. And this is a time of urgency. Climate change is taking place at a rapid clip. So many animals are going extinct. Insects are going extinct. Not insects that come from Southeast Asia. Oh no, they're flourishing right here in New York City. But insects that we need for pollinators, they're perishing. Birds are perishing. Fish are perishing. And what do you think you're all going to eat? You can't let climate change go unabated without controlling what corporations are doing. Left up to them, they're just short-term thinkers. They don't really care about what happens to the climate. They forgot that they may suffer also. But they're making too much money, and they feel whatever's left, there'll be enough for them, and somehow they'll survive. The rest of us know we won't. And we need our kids' voices. Sure, the economy is chugging along, but you know what? It could chug along a hell of a lot better when Gen X is employed and we're actually counting them in the workforce. Every corporation would then start to be a corporation with some accountability. And maybe Gen Xers would ask for regulations and taxations of corporations. Taxes that are meaningful, like 28%. And maybe they'd ask for those rent-sinking private equity firms and hedge fund firms that all their monies be accounted for in terms of income. And let's tax them, just like we tax the middle class. You pay into FICA, just like everyone else. We'd probably get another $1 trillion. And then we don't have to worry about piecemealing climate mitigation. We'd have it just like that from the low-hanging fruit. The subsidies from fossil fuels, the subsidies from big agri, an increase in corporate taxes up to 28% at least, closing the loopholes, and making hedge funds accountable for all their income. No more fee-based system where it can be offshored for 10 years. No siree. Every penny that they take in has got to be income. Most of those hedge funds aren't doing us any good anyway because they control our real estate. They control our rental units. They control our single-family homes. For them, the crash of 2008 was a win-win because there was a massive transfer from individual home ownership to private equity. Let's start reversing some of that so that we get a thriving middle class. Am I a rebel? You bet. I don't see many rebels around, but maybe I do. Hospitality is going on strike in Las Vegas. School bus drivers are thinking of going on strike. The automotive industry is already on strike and looking for benefits and less working hours. Let's see what happens if more folks go on strike and it is a strike for an entire industry, not just one retail shop of Starbucks, but all retail shops. Not one Amazon warehouse, but all Amazon warehouses. When we start doing that, then guess what? We'll have work for our Gen X kids. Because I don't think that the boomers want to take care of the Gen X kids forever. I'd like to see them all working, earning a living, having self-dignity. And I think most of you who are listening feel the same way. So, with our kids working and our grandchildren working, let's have everyone working towards a better lifestyle for themselves and democracy for the rest of us. I'm a rebel, you bet. I'm fighting for democracy, and I'm also fighting for a better way of life for everyone. Thank you for listening.